What's going on, people? Let's talk about collecting, right? Well, and starting off, before I go getting anywhere with that, right? Just hearing that word sometimes to different people kind of like puts different thoughts in your head, or even for me, right? When I hear that word in different situations, kind of puts different thoughts in my head, right? Because at work, say somebody was telling me something, oh, like, yeah, I was mentioning to somebody, yeah, like, you collect shoes and blah, blah, blah. And I was like, what? Like, which is weird to me because, like, when you say it like that, like, just my perspective, right? When you say, oh, like, collecting shoes, that makes it seem like you're just, like, collecting them and just, like, having them, right? Whereas I actually get them for functional reasons. Like, oh, I got some trail shoes, some running shoes, some rainwear shoes, some cold weather shoes, I get a bunch of different stuff just to try it out, see what's going on with it. It's not so much like a checklist of things like, okay, I need this and I need that and I need this because that's what I have to have. But then when I look at, like, which would be more like when I was younger collecting cars or whatever, it's like, oh, well, there's a checklist thing. I need all 100 of these, so I need to get this Ghost Rider and I need to get this Magic card and then I'll be good. But when I look at other stuff, when it comes to collecting, like I'm kind of mostly talking about, when it comes to like the action figures and stuff, that, yeah, I guess that is more collecting, right? Because there's just certain things that I feel like I need to have because it's like, oh, well, if I have Dirty Dom, I need to get Rhea and I need to get Damian Priest, I need to get Finn Balor and I need to get JD and maybe another R-Truth because I need to have this little set. It's that sort of thing, right? And it is time consuming in a lot of ways and space consuming, but we'll get into that a little bit or whatever. So the reason I kind of bring this up is because a little while ago I was sitting down here doing a YouTube live session talking about Ultimate Edition figures, right? The WWE ones. Because I just put a shelf together not too long ago, right? And I was planning on moving some stuff around, so now I'll have some space to put these things out, right? Because they've been hanging around in just the boxes for the last however long, and I'm ready to like move on past that because honestly it starts to feel like a waste of money, right? Because I have something, it's like I'm just gonna have this in the box and not use it. I could have just not bought it and then just maybe had some more money, or at least some more money that just went to something else perhaps, right? So either way, the collecting thing, right? It is fun, right? It's a thing that, like, I don't know how I get into it or gotta get out of it because it just kind of comes and it goes, right? Like with the shoe thing, when I look at like buying shoes, I'll buy a lot for a little while, then I'll kind of pull back and then I'll get back into it. Same thing goes with like the figure thing. For a long time, right? Like in recent years, I wasn't just done, but I was like, I get like a wrestling figure like every several weeks, like maybe once a month or something, and then all of a sudden I start buying more and seeing more and then start accumulating a whole lot. So right now I'm in kind of one of those and trying to get back out of it, honestly. Because the thing is, as much as I enjoy it, right, I do. It's like a thing that's an interest of mine. So I look at the websites and it's not just the wrestling figures. It's like the Iron Studios, like the Ninja Turtles or the Marvel Legends, right? All kinds of stuff. I look at the things and I'm seeing all these things that remind me of like my childhood or whatever. And then it becomes a situation where it's like you see this thing that you want. You have some already, so you're already kind of like open to buying them. And you can have it and you want to have it, so you will have it, right? It's basically that simple, at least for me, right? And it's a good or bad or whatever, living alone, not having like wife, girlfriend, whatever here, it's like I could just do whatever. So that's how I live. And so then if that wasn't the case, then it might, there might be a little bit of a conversation once in a while, like, hey, Tristan, what's up with what's all this? But since it's just me, then there's no need for a conversation because otherwise I'd be talking to myself and that just seems a little weird now, doesn't it? So I pick up the stuff because it fills my time, gives me something to do, gives me a little decoration or whatever. So that's pretty cool, I guess, in its own little way. But then as you start to like get this stuff, it's like you got to start to think about what are you going to do with all this stuff, right? Because I don't really sell anything because I hadn't had a reason to. Like, but now as I've been looking into more lines and stuff. It's like I said, I just got into like the Iron Studios. I picked up some Mafex things recently. I got some more on the way whenever those pre-orders start to roll on out, you know. The Mondo thing doesn't seem to be letting up, and I seem to be pretty into that. You know, NECA's still a thing, right? So all these things are popping up, and now it's like, okay, something's got to give here, right? And then it becomes a question of like, well, how do you control this collection situation, right? Now, I'm pretty good about just like being an adult about some stuff and saying, okay, well, I'm just not going to get this because I would like to have it, but because of this reason, like maybe it's similar or maybe it's just a space thing, like, or maybe I'm just like, you know what, I feel like something better will come along. I'll usually be pretty good about just not doing stuff or whatever, but that still leaves the fact that I have a lot already. And so as new things come out and if nothing old leaves, right? So I sit here and I'm thinking like, what am I going to do about this, right? I mean, I obviously like you buy stuff. I mean, you sell stuff or maybe you trade things so that way it's not just like only incoming and no outgoing, because that'll help get things taken care of. I've had some friends that collect things of their own world, whatever, whether it be albums or shoes or those like chalk line shirts and stuff, right? And they say, okay, you know what? I'm not going to go over 30 shirts or something like that. Or I'm not going to go over 45 pairs of shoes. Whatever number they come up with, like, this is the number, period. And so when they get close, they get rid of a bunch of them. So that way they have a bunch more room and it's not just like, you know, one in, one out, one in, one out. They just kind of take chunks out of the numbers. And so that's the thing that makes a lot of sense, right? Because you got to do something. I mean, unless you just have like infinite space. I mean, if I had a huge house or whatever, then yeah, I could just maybe display all the stuff wherever, right? But then it also then becomes a bit of a hoarding situation, as I would see it. And that's not quite okay. So I'm trying to like not fall into that category, but who knows? Maybe I am there because it's weird. Like, I mean, I have a lot of things and I haven't sold any of them, but I'm not against it. I just haven't. So I don't know. I feel like I'm not a hoarder. It's just that it might seem that way if you ask me, well, how many wrestling figures do you have? How many shoes do you have? How many various Ninja Turtle sets do you have? And how many do you need? Very different answers, right? From that first part to that last part. So yeah, I can see the questioning there. But at the end of the day, what it really comes down to is like everybody has some kind of interest for the most part, right? I have friends at work that are into collecting their own source things, and we'll talk about that, like the trials and tribulations that they go through. Like, man, this website, and I'm trying to do this, and I'm trying to buy these. I'm like, you know, I go through that same thing, and I'm trying to get this sort of thing from these people. And then we compare stories and all that stuff. And then it's kind of weird sometimes when you talk to other people that, and that's nothing wrong with being like a minimalist or whatever. I get that, but then it seems like some people just like have like no interests, and I'm like, so what? You don't like anything? It's, you know? No. And it's like, you're not saying that everybody has to physically collect something, but it's just, you would think that most people would have something that like they're into, or even if it's like, oh yeah, like I buy like different types of socks because like I like the ones that have like these funny pictures on them or whatever. My mom has a bunch of those, you know? But then you meet some people and they're just like, they're very plain, very boring, and I'm not trying to look down on anybody, but it's just, it is what it is, right? Maybe they're like good with conversation, so there's that, you know, that might be a selling point on that particular person, right? Or maybe they have a good sense of humor, whatever the case is. But it just seems like, you know, an actual interest is kind of weird in that way, and like to not have one. But don't think too much on that. Again, it's just me sharing my own little random thoughts, because when I sit down to do these things, I know what I'm going to talk about. I know what the topic is. What I say in the next, like, however many minutes is just whatever comes to mind, right? So it's not like I write out things or whatever. And you've probably noticed if you've listened to more than one of these, it's a straight shot, right? There's no, like, cutting or anything. I don't have that kind of time, right? I mean, I do, but I'm not using my time for that. I did that once, like, trying to cut up a video and make it, like, shorter or something because I was like, oh, maybe that's the thing that I should do because other people are doing that. Did it once, never again. But either way, so all in all, just gonna wrap this thing up real quick because I just want to sit down here and rant a little bit about my collection that's getting mostly out of hand, right? And so now I gotta look through and see what am I gonna get rid of because I was going through boxes looking for something and I was seeing stuff that I forgot that I even had, and in some cases I look at it and I'm like, okay, like I don't even need this anymore because like so and so made a new one and this one is like, no, like this is not the better option. So got to do some things, but it was just something that was on my mind because like I said, I was sitting down going through a bunch of figures. I'm seeing stuff I forgot about, seeing stuff I questioned why I bought it in the first place. Not everything is like that. There are a lot of things that stick in my mind and I'm like, I remember buying this, like I remember the day, I remember the store, I remember like everything about it and how happy I was to get it. There's a lot of stuff like that, and then there's some other things like Jeff Hardy, how'd this get in here? Right? If you saw the video, you know what I'm talking about. But either way, I don't really have a whole lot else to say. So if you want to leave any thoughts or whatever down somewhere, feel free to do that. We can talk about whatever you feel like talking about, or you can leave me some sort of ideas of other things to talk about in the future. But for now, from me to you, have a nice rest of your day or rest of your night, whatever it is, wherever you are. I'm going to move on and I guess start opening some WWE Ultimate Edition action figure boxes because that sounds like something I need to do so I can get these boxes out of here. Because I tell you, once you get these figures out of the boxes, you have so much more space. It's crazy. It's freaking crazy. Later, people.